So every Tuesday when we gather and we are, developing the studies at Spiritism at noon, um, and we just finished, right, studying the book Nosso Lar, as we explained, with a name of not just be talking about the story per se, but the teachings, everything that is in there. So since last week, I was thinking what should be good for us to continue in terms of this learning that it's so important for us and that can help us to cope, to understand, especially the times that we are living. Nothing that would be too complicated or elaborate, but something that could be really practical and that we could feel the application to us on our day-to-day basis. Um, and I have decided, of course, I like to hear from the group that there is this book that for the moment it's just published in Portuguese, but we will have in English one book that I put together that is called Inner Transformation, that helps us in this process of talking about everything and the understanding the need for us for this self-awareness and to work on ourselves, to try to better ourselves on the day-to-day basis. So I thought that could be a very sensitive uh, topic for us to talk about as well. We are all have been going through so much, and the idea here is to be able, as we advance, to meditate about those things and the concepts we are going to be bringing and applying them. So the basis for this study, when I first put it together and then put it in a book format, is the Sermon on the Mount, which is considered by many the main guidelines we have in terms of this inner transformation. And together with that, we use it, one concept that is very widespread, especially here in the US, that is about talking about the 13 virtues that Benjamin Franklin has established for himself. So it will be a combination of using at the same time the teachings, this rule of conduct, of behavior that we have received from the Sermon on the Mount by Jesus, but as well exploring the thoughts and the application of all that of Benjamin Franklin, and of course in our lives. So in order to do that, when we go into a voyage, so to say, of really exploring this unknown land that we can call ourselves, right? It's so unknown, right? We barely know how to deal with our thoughts, our emotions, considering one lifetime. Imagine if we put it into that, everything that comes from other incarnations, the pains, the joys, the virtues we acquire, the weakness we still bring with us. So it's really too much, and normally quite hard for us to do that. So the initial point for everything in this context is always going to be us thinking about why am I doing that? And if I'm doing that sincerely because I need to improve, I need to analyze, we are still here, we still have time to, to make amends or whatever is necessary for us to feel better about ourselves. The first point is this process of self-awareness and sincerity. There is no reason for us to deceive ourselves in this process. Pretending, no, everybody says that I am impatient, but this is just their opinion because I know I'm not. Right. And deep inside, we know we are. People are not just saying, pointing their finger to us saying, you're so impatient, out of nothing. There is some basis for all of this. That's why everything starts with this self-awareness, self-realization, and thinking with trueness. Again, it's not a matter of, spreading the word to the world. It's not that I went, oh, you know what? I found out that I am so vain. Did you know that? Well, we will run the risk of people saying, of course you are. Of course I knew that. You're only finding this out now, right? So it's not that we have to go and announce to the world, but it's this inner process. That's why it's everything about all this inner transformation. So the know thyself, the famous aphorism, as they say, that is inscribed in golden letters in this temple of Delphi. It's the initial point, the point of departure for us, that it has become this synonymous of self-realization or self-knowledge. And I mean, when we think about that, I mean, we're talking about the time of Socrates and pre-Socratic, even pre-Socratic eras, that they are already saying, listen, you have to know yourself. You have to be the master of yourself. You have to be able to tame your emotions and really analyzing and seeing where are you going to go from there. So just for us to have a bit of history, this famous phrase, know thyself, actually, we don't know who wrote that. Okay, many times is attributed to Socrates because he used it to use this, the importance of the know thyself. But it can be any one of those that are listed here. And it's before Common Era, right? And we don't know for sure, but it doesn't matter because here our purpose is not to attribute this to one or that person, but actually to gather from the teaching, from the knowledge, and knowing that it comes from philosophers from many centuries, millennia ago, that have already expressed the need for us to think about ourselves. And there is a question in the Spirits book that Kardec proposes to the spirits, saying, after we are talking about God, creation, spirit life, and the moral teachings, okay, how can I get there, right? Because this is how can I apply that to myself? Because it doesn't matter us just be focusing on the theories if we do not know how to put that in, apply that in our day-to-day lives. So the question that Allan Kardec proposes is the famous one that many of the spiritists know by heart, not necessarily apply there, but they know by heart, is the question 919. Okay, which is, what is the most effective means for improving ourselves in this life and for resisting the draw of evil? And the answer is know thyself. So explaining that the Socratic approach begins with the assumption that a knowledge of self is simply a form of ignorance, which must be overcome in the same way that every other form of ignorance is overcome, that is, by replacing ignorance with knowledge, which is so amazing, because when the Spirit explains to us about the creation, and they say that we were all created as immortal spirits, we had a beginning, we didn't have an end. The way that they describe us at this very beginning is, as being a being simple and ignorant in the sense of lack of knowledge, very much like if we look at a baby, like the one that Annette's holding now, we will not expect that this baby will master certain knowledges that only we are going to acquire when we become older, or even if it's in our teens and later on in life, but we cannot expect that. So as newly formed spirits, we come, from this blank slate, that ignorance in this case means there is no substance yet. There is lack of knowledge, but you have the potential to learn all of that. So in this case here, what complicates our lives is actually this lack of knowledge, this lack of understanding. Of course, we can put a lot of other things into this bag, because analyzing why do I have the lack of knowledge is because I'm very conservative. I'm not an open mind. I just accept things that can strike my eyes. The material things. Don't talk about spiritual things. So all of that is a process, okay? And this is why this understanding of knowing ourselves, even in the case that we do not want to consider other incarnations, or even if I don't want to consider life after death, which is quite rare in the world, actually, considering that from the last research that I did, 89.9% of the world population do believe in the mortality of the soul. So for the sake of having a round number, let's say 90% of the population, so just minus 10, right? So we do believe in this. And so this should be something that should drive us in this process of growing. And again, it is not a matter of how long ago we began, or how long it's going to take. It's doing the work, because once I learned something, I learned. That's it. I have that, right? It doesn't matter how soon, how late, how long it took. It's like read and write. I mean, if you learn to read and write when you were 3, okay, good for you. You start earlier. If you learn to read and write only when you were, in certain countries that this can be more complicated when you were an adult, you learned, you have the knowledge. So this is what is important for us to do all this revision. So I'm going to stop here because I wanted to do this long introduction just to be able to situate all of you in what we are proposing to be doing in the next, it will take a few months for us to cover everything. And to see, if you have anything to say, or even if you like this idea or not. So please feel free to express yourself.
Well, okay, I like it. I think this is really exciting, and thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful to know, Marley.
Yeah,
And if you have comments and questions, please just let me know, okay?
yeah.
Yes,
I like this very much, applied knowledge to our everyday life, because if it wasn't for the knowledge I learned in my undergraduate degree in early childhood education, human growth and development, I would not have been able to become the quality mom and grandmother that I am today, because I had an interesting childhood, I'll say, and a lot of things that I needed to unlearn and make changes for myself and within myself due to what I learned as a child. And I learned that through knowledge base in college, and how to apply that in the classroom, and then how to apply that at home with my own children. Was a whole different ball game, so to speak. So I really appreciate practical and applied knowledge or information, and I think that helps us to create that greater wisdom and that stronger light within each and every one of us.
and that's great what you said, Annette, because first of all, there is always room for improvement, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We're not ready yet. And most important even is like, it doesn't mean that we are stuck with things that we learned in our past. This is not necessarily what defines us today, right? So we can break with certain patterns that previously were accepted or were commonplace. But then when we analyze, we say, well, this I don't think this is good for me. I'm going to change. I'm going to go into another direction. And I think this is the beauty of all that. And that's why I say it's ageless. It's
Yeah,
where we go, right?
it's just beautiful. And like I say a lot, is as long as I'm wearing this human suit, there'll be work to be done, there'll be growth to be had, and more information to learn. So I love it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Great. Anyone else would like to say something?
I think it's wonderful. This is a way of seeing that you're not alone, that life is what it is, and there's always room for improvement, and especially as souls that we're here now on this planet Earth, how great it is that the most important aspect of our living is to improve ourselves through knowledge and relating all this in our families, especially ourselves. So there's always room. I know for a fact I need a whole lot more. I and especially when it comes to family, there's always room for improvement, trying to help those that are in need. So I think this is perfect, Jussara.
Great.
Perfect to start with. Thank you.
And it's good. I like this because even when sometimes we do know the concepts, because we know those are things that probably we have been hearing from many years, for some of us decades, but for one reason or another, we uh, at the time perhaps we couldn't understand that better, or we couldn't necessarily apply them to our lives. And as we are in constant progress, even if some of the concepts may be very plain and we will find all over, it's not just exclusive to spiritism or spiritualist ideas. Those are topics that are very important for us, and nowadays with everything that is happening and all the constant source of informations that we can gather, we don't have that much time to think about ourselves, to think about what is it that I really like or that I enjoy, or that I feel it's not doing so well with me. And because, the basic thing is when we have peace of mind, when we are in peace with ourselves, in harmony, uh, this is a step further in feeling, this joy, happiness, and of course, sending it out. So when I'm unhappy, I cannot, bring happiness to those that surround me, because I don't have it even for myself. And my way of being, of behaving, my body language is going to be one of, oh, everything is bad, oh, poor me, oh, life, oh, Russia, oh, everything else. But we never say, oh, me, because come on, let's move and do something about it. Or do you want to be keeping on dragging on this hole that you're imposing to yourself? So I think basically is that even when we cannot change our surroundings and the events that are happening, our state of mind, the way we feel, the way we understand changes completely the perspective that can lead us to feel, okay, things are not okay, but they are not horrible. I'm not allowing them to destroy my life. And sometimes we do that quite often. Base it on what is happening around, not paying attention to our needs, and not letting ourselves that much being contaminated by all this negative energy and thoughts that are surrounding us. Obviously, because this is a kind of an invitation to introspection, right? That's why your comments, and again, I'm never in a hurry of going with this material. I think this is a very sensitive material for us really to explore and to start thinking about. So the know thyself, right? I mean, it's not just going watching the news, what is happening outside, or looking at the internet, or social media to see what is happening on the lives of others, but really to think, how am I feeling in all of this? And this is also an invitation to be more tolerant, to have more compassion, because when we start understanding and realizing how fragile we are, our weaknesses as well, because we will say, listen, I'm trying so hard. Let's keep on, with the example of impatience. I'm trying so hard not to be impatient. So the hard work you are doing. So when someone comes to you super impatient, instead of immediately condemning the behavior of this person, you're going to think, oh my God, I know how hard it is. I live that. Or maybe not specifically that, but I live something else. And I understand how hard it is for us. Old habits die hard, right? And in a spiritism, like I say, we believe in progress. We believe in these changes. It's not written in stone, absolutely, unless we want it to be. And we can stay there as long as we want, but it's just going to bring unhappiness to us. The sooner I realize that I have to be in control, I have to accept me for what I am today, which does not define me and does not mean that I don't have the potential to become better. So this is the process. Any comment or question? Yes, Sonia?
And
Yeah.
I'm
And-
excited for these
Yeah.
lessons, because yeah, we are different persons in the same group, different age, live in different cities, have different experience. And during these lessons, I'm sure we will find in the same points, the same needs, the same things we need to improve in ourselves. Point in common, then I think it will be really nice.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I believe all journeys lead to the place of the heart. And we all have the same emotions that we're working through, but the story behind the emotions we're working through is different from one person to another, because we all have our own life that we've lived, and we have our own story that we're working through or healing from or trying to make sense out of. And it all requires that open heart and the understanding of our emotions and being able to work through that energy. So this is exciting.
Annette, you're truly inspired today. And inspiring, because you see, you went straight to the point, because when we talk about this love, like you mentioned, all of this is actually with the purpose of helping us to love ourselves and to accept what we are today, knowing that, okay, like I say, sometimes we look in the mirror, to see our spiritual image and not necessarily the physical one. And I say, oh my God, I don't like what I'm seeing, right? Because there was a personality trait that imposed itself, and it's not a good side. I don't like it. So, but at the same time that I'm doing the effort to become better, and this is the purpose, it comes also the realization that is a process. And so I will have to learn to love myself, even when I see that there is so much room for improvement, right? Like we said.
Yes.
Actually, let's talk about palaces, castles. Right? There's so many rooms. It's not just, a single house, whatever place it is, or a tiny apartment in Manhattan, right? It's mansions that we are talking about. So, and this is what helps us, because it is us being happy and applauding each little conquest that we will be doing in this whole process, right? And
Yeah.
and when you have this joy, because you say, okay, I'm not there yet, but I already know I'm doing the effort. This time I succeeded, that time, oh my God, super failure. But it is that, and this is what a joyous person we can become. And knowing that, having the certainty about immortality and reincarnation, I mean, it's never work lost, right?
The self-love is so important, and self-reflection, and just for me, learning how to embrace it all, learning how to love it all, to love the good, the bad, and the ugly about life, because it all heals through love.
Great.
That's what I see for myself. Yeah.
So continue in this question, there is another sub-question and answer that Kardec proposed. We comprehend all the wisdom of that maxim, know thyself, but the difficulty is precisely knowing ourselves. But by what means can we do so? So it's great that Kardec said, okay, it's so easy for us just to say, oh, know yourself. Okay, can you give me a clue how to do that? Is there a process? Have someone already tried and maybe can guide us? And this is the answer that we have from St. Augustine, actually, is the spirit that signed this answer, saying, do what I used to do when I was living on the earth. At the end of each day, I examined my conscience, reviewed what I had done, and asked myself whether or not I had failed to fulfill some duty and whether or not anyone had reason to complain about me. It was thus that I arrived at knowing myself and in seeing what there was in me that needed to be reformed. So this is a great thing. Actually, when we talk and we see in so many other philosophies as well, talking so much about meditation, the meditation is really us doing that, is reserving a time of the day or a certain amount of time that doesn't need to be that much for us to reflect, to ponder. And this is one of the things that we could be doing, be that at the time that you are going to sleep. But, sometimes when you go to sleep and we start thinking in the chain of thoughts, and all of a sudden we are sleeping already. So maybe a bit before, this preparation to go to sleep, but at least to find a time of the day, even if you have to access, say, okay, for me, it works better if I do in the morning. So I'm going to do this examination, not the night, because I tried and I sleep on the middle of it, maybe out of boredom or disappointment, right? But I will do it in the morning and kind of plan your day around it. Okay, this is something that I did yesterday that was really good. When the sadness um, came, I I called a friend. I picked up a good book. I watched TV, or I listened to one of those so many materials that we have on the internet today, YouTube channels, and that worked. Or I went cooking. So maybe if I feel this way again, I'm going to go to the kitchen and bake something, or it can be whatever. Because for each one of us, it's going to be different, but the process is the same. There is no process unless we start with these things. Okay, I really want to get to know myself. And in order to do that, I have to be very sincere with me, because I'm not deceiving anyone. I'm deceiving myself in case I do not want to see what is really going on. And by doing that, like we said, the idea here is not for us to condemn ourselves because we feel excessively sad because of a situation, or angry, or whatever the situation can be. We can say, okay, so far I can go up to this point, but my goal is further away. And there is only one way for me to reach my goal, is to keep going, accepting, and not delaying, and just thinking, I'm never going to make it. And doesn't help us in this process. Any comment, any question?
Jussara, for the time that I have been studying spiritism, I've used this beautiful concept of St. Augustine, how to improve yourself. And, it's beautiful because you are actually analyzing yourself morning and night. When you go to sleep, you say, I hope I didn't hurt anyone. I hope I didn't step on no one. And tomorrow I'll do better. And when you wake up in the morning, you say, okay, I'm going to do what I can today in order not to make the mistake I did yesterday. So each day it's like a process. and you see the improvement in yourself. You really do. You know, when you shouldn't say what you're going to hurt somebody, you hold back. And naturally, the first thing you do in the morning and at night is say your prayers and ask, you know, for assistance and help, the guardian angel. It's a process, and it's a beautiful one. St. Augustine, as a philosopher, was in the right state of mind of his intelligence to help us to move forward, that we can improve ourselves, not the others, not who's ever giving you a hard time, but for ourselves to learn how to deal with that, the things that are we can't fix, but we can fix ourselves. We can change ourselves, and this is a beautiful way to do it. It does help enormously.
And it's so important what you said also, because I was thinking, Soraya, that you see, the answer couldn't be more clear, right? I mean, uh, it's simple. It's not saying, you know, do that 5 times, or, you know, you have to be standing, or you have to be laid down, or it has to be sunny outside, or you have to repeat a few words 1,000 times. Nothing. It's just you know,
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
Just think about it. Look at
Mhm.
yourself. You know, it's like if you were watching a movie of the happenings of the day before you, and how you would be analyzing that. So
Mhm.
it's very simple. Everyone can do that. It's just that thing. If there is a way, that a will, there is a way. So of us trying to do that, and the purpose here, and the purpose of our, studies, bringing this topic to us, is not to do to make us feel depressed and think, oh my God, I'm so
Yeah.
bad. I lost so much time, I could have been. No, this is not what we are talking about here. It's very much like, the first steps, the baby step, baby takes a step, right? Oh my God, let's celebrate. Let's have a party, because it said the first the milestones. So every little conquest that we do, it should be like that. It's a milestone, uh, conquered, and it gives possibility for celebration. Sonia, you wanted to say something?
Yes, then you're right. This is a simple answer. But to be in this level, you need to walk little steps before, because usually the humans prefer to put the responsibility on the other shoulders and running for our own mistakes.
Yeah.
And then to face ourselves in this level, to ask what I did wrong, what I can improve myself in this situation, we need to walk little steps before.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I like this comment that Kardec makes on to complete this question. And he says, if we interrogate our conscience more frequently, we would see how often we fail without noticing it, by not having scrutinized the nature and motive for our deeds. So the interrogative form requires categorical yes, no answers that leave no room for alternatives. They are personal assertions, and from the sum of those answers, we can compute the sum of the good and the evil that exists in us. To me, this is the part that I love the most in this question, is the Kardec's comment, because it's like he's looking at ourselves and say, I know what you're going to be doing. As soon as you say, okay, I'm going to start this process of knowing myself. Let me think about my day. Ah, yes. Yeah, let's say Zoraida called me, but she was not nice to me. So okay, I was not that nice to her, but it was because she was not nice to me, right? So that's when he says there is no room for excuses. For okay, I tried. Is you are nice or you're not? And like you were commenting, right, Sonia, we try to jump and bringing guilt to the world. Oh, it's been very hard, and that's why I've been feeling so anxious, and this has been bad in my household. But you see, the COVID, it doesn't give any rest to us. So again, I'm jumping to eliminate any kind of responsibility from me and putting the responsibility on other things. So is yes or no. And again, we don't have to declare that publicly. Okay, people are going to notice whether we are nice or not, but we don't have to declare that in public, right? It's just for us, it's assertions, like he said, personal assertions. And this is the thing. I don't have to go to others. Oh my God, I found out that I'm this, and that. Okay, but what are your qualities as well? Efforts are very important in this case, in this journey, the effort that we are doing. So this is what it really counts at this moment. Comments, questions?
Um, I have often wondered what I came here to learn this time. I haven't been able to figure that out. Is there some way I can find a way to this answer?
It's a very good question, Marlene. You know, in this process, I believe that even for us, the, the results may be not that much perceptible at first. I will use a very silly example, but when you are doing, you're going on a diet, okay? And you don't see sometimes that much changes at the beginning, especially at the beginning. You think nothing, it's not that much, but then you meet people that will say, oh my God, you lost so much weight, because we are seeing the changes gradually, and we tend to forget how we were or how we were behaving or looking 6 months ago. But people in this case can have a better help us in the steps. Not them to come with their, but sometimes will come and say, oh my God, it's let's say, oh, I don't feel that all this pandemic affected you that much. You seem so calmer and reacting good in this sense, or I realize that you are smiling more, or more friendly in your way of when you talk to people. So this is why it is so hard for us to measure. There is one thing that I normally said, Marlene, and that I could never do at the Spiritist Center, but it was my wish that I could, that when the person arrives for the first time, I would like to take a photograph, the before and after, you see, because sometimes, not sometimes, I would even say in the majority of the cases, you see the changes that inner changes that become transparent in the person's feature, the way they look after themselves. Sometimes they go there with no self-esteem, completely abandoned, and then a few months pass by and they arrive all clean and proper, and haircuts and all of those things that but most than that, the way their eyes shine, their face shine, and sometimes this cannot necessarily be captured in a picture, but sometimes even the physical appearance has changed so much. So, but I understand, because we also are, I think, in a way, are raised more to pay attention to our failures than our conquests, and so I don't know. Sometimes we may feel, okay, this is my obligation. I didn't do nothing else than act properly as I should, and that's why we don't see that much. So I would say don't worry too much about whether it has become visible or not to you, because I'm sure that overall you will feel better, and other people will be noticing as well, even if it's in the atmosphere where you are. But that's hard, and because progress is slow, it's another reason why we don't see that much. Okay, so if I lose 5 pounds, well, 5 pounds is a lot, but maybe when you need to lose 50, 5 pounds doesn't look that much, but in the long run, you will be accumulating the other five, and you reach 50, and you say, oh, now I'll look back and I remember how it was. So I don't know if I could satisfy you with my answer, because the answer is it's hard for us to see that. Philip, you want to say
I
something?
think it's very complicated.
Yeah.
And you posed an interesting concept in that we shouldn't really worry about it, or keep looking for it, but just let it happen. Isn't that it?
Mhm. Yeah, that we will have to be keeping on doing and let it happening, not worrying. And I mean, when we are talking about those deep realization, deep changes, they happen very gradually. You see, at the moment, I think one of the things that we have to applaud in ourselves already is we are looking for something more. We are all here looking for something more. We are all, in a certain way, understanding that what we know so far and what is there so far is incomplete. And we are giving our time, we are putting our effort, and sometimes even our money when we are, buying the books, the literature, to be able to go even deeper in what we are doing. So all of that, we should already consider big changes, because like Sonia said, it may be not that difficult for us to think, okay, let me just ponder about what I happening or how I behave it during my day. But to come there, that was already a huge step. For us to accept that there is more to life than just what we see, that we are spirits, that we are in control, that we have to stop just blaming each and every one for everything that is happening around and happening in our lives, and be able to say, no, I really want to know more about all this. It's a huge step. And not to mention that many people come even from prejudice or completely lack of interest. I have people close in my life that years ago was like that. I mean, leave me out of this. And with time, they become more open, more interested. And today, if I say, remember the time that you said you're crazy, or uh, stop talking about this with me, they will say, no, I never did that. Perhaps it was because I didn't have time. They do not even want to acknowledge that that was true. So that's why it's so hard. But be sure that you get to the point where you are today, where we all are today. There is so much progress in our part, this interesting in love, love to oneself, love to others, and enlightenment, which is the best thing that we could be doing with our lives today. Yes, Sonia?
And talking about inner transformation, each small victory inside ourselves is a huge for ourselves. I understand nobody knows about this. I keep in secret, but for me, it's a victory because it's something I can do it for myself. I change inside myself. It's a small victory. Then I keep secret, but for me, it's very strong and important to keeping these transformations.
And
It's
interesting that you're saying that, Sonia, as well, because those things that emotions and victories, like you said, that deals with our inner self, sometimes is even difficult for us to think about sharing with others, because it's so personal in the sense that only you understands and know the importance of that for you. So for you, perhaps one victory that another person have conquered that two incarnations ago, maybe they will not value that much what this means to you. Like when a child comes with a drawing of a dog, right? And you look and you see just two lines, uneven lines, and say, oh, what beautiful giraffe you draw, or something like, I mean, but to the child, it's, oh my God, I accomplished so much. I pick up the paper, I got the crayon, I managed to put, and for us, because we are ahead, I mean, we don't know the process and the experience. That's why, I mean, at least for me personally, every time I experience some more holy experience, or one of those achievements, is very much like you say, I keep it to myself, because I don't even want to see it tinted with the colors of other people that will not know and understand to appreciate what that meant to me. It's like, it's something sacred that is no longer going to be sacred when I share with people that are not going to understand what that means to us. Of course, there are certain things that you can do with certain people, but like I said, in many cases is that, and is you feeling good with yourself, accepting and loving yourself each time more, and as a result, you're going to become a much nice person to have around. And this is what matters to others, right? Sometimes they don't matter, they don't worry that much how much we are jumping on the ladder of evolvement, but how pleasing our company is to me, right? Okay, we have a few minutes before we close. If anyone would like to say something else.
There's an old expression that says, don't push the river. In other words, go with the flow. It'll all evolve.
Yes, that's wonderful. Don't push the river. Good to know. Okay. So, Rida, can you do the final prayer for us?